The Sutra of the foremost Shurangama of the Great Buddha Summit concerning the Tathagata's secret course of cultivation, his certification to the complete meaning and all Bodhisattvas' myriad of practices. Translated during the Tang Dynasty by Shramana Paramiti from central India. Reviewed by Shramana Meghashikara from Uddiyana. Certified by Shramana Huai from non-Lua Monastery on Lua Fu Mountain. Edited by Bodhisattva-precepts disciple Fang of Qing, former Censor of State and concurrently Attendant and Minister and Court Regulator. Thus I have heard. At one time the Buddha dwelt at the city of Shravasti in the sublime abode of the Jeta Grove, with a gathering of great bhikshus, 1,250 in all. All were great Arhats without outflows, disciples of the Buddha, dwellers and maintainers. They had fully transcended all existence and were able to travel everywhere and to accomplish the awesome deportment. They followed the Buddha in turning the wheel and were wonderfully worthy of the bequest. Stern and pure in the Vinaya, they were great exemplars in the three realms. Their limitless response bodies took living beings across and liberated them, pulling out and rescuing those of the future so they could transcend all the bonds of dust. The names of the leaders were the greatly wise Shariputra, Mahamaudgalyayana, Mahakaushthila, Purnamaitrayaniputra, Saputi, Upanishad, and others. Moreover, limitless pratyakas who were beyond learning and those with initial resolve came to where the Buddha was to join the bhikshus Pravarana at the close of the summer retreat. Bodhisattvas from the 10 directions who desired counsel in order to resolve the doubts in their minds were respectful and obedient to the awesome but compassionate one as they prepared to seek the secret meaning. Then the Tathagata arranged his seat, sat quietly and peacefully, and for the sake of everyone in the assembly, proclaimed the profound and mysterious. Those in the pure assembly at the banquet of Dharma obtained what they had never obtained before. The immortals Kalavinka sound pervaded the 10 directions, and Bodhisattvas as numerous as the sands of the Ganges gathered at the Buddhimanda with Manjushri as their leader. Then King Prasenajit, for the sake of his father, the late king, arranged on the day of mourning a vegetarian feast and invited the Buddha to the side rooms of the palace. He welcomed the Tathagata in person with a vast array of superb delicacies of unsurpassed wonderful flavors and himself invited the great Bodhisattvas. In the city were also elders and lay people who were also prepared to feed the Sangha at the same time, and they stood waiting for the Buddha to come and receive offerings. The Buddha commanded Manjushri to assign the Bodhisattvas and Arhats to receive offerings from the various vegetarian hosts. Only Ananda, who, having accepted a special invitation earlier, had traveled far and had not yet returned, was late for the apportioning of the Sangha. No senior-seated one or Acharya was with him, so he was returning alone on the road. On that day he had received no offerings, and so at the appropriate time Ananda took up his begging bowl and, as he traveled through the city, begged in successive order. As he first began to beg, he thought to himself that down to the very last dinner party, who would be his vegetarian host, he would not question whether they were clean or unclean, whether they were Kshatriyas of honorable name or Chandalas. While practicing equality and compassion, he would not merely select the lowly, but was determined to perfect all living beings, limitless merit and virtue. Ananda already knew that the Tathagata, the world-honored one, had admonished Saputi and the great Kashyapa for being Arhats whose hearts were not fair and equal, and he regarded with respect the Tathagata's instructions on impartiality to save everyone from doubt and slander. Having crossed the city moat, he walked slowly through the outer gates, his manner stern and proper as he honored with propriety the method of obtaining food. At that time, because Ananda was begging in sequential order, he passed by a house of prostitution and was waylaid by a powerful artifice. By means of a mantra of the Kapila religion, formerly of the Brahma heaven, the daughter of Mantaji drew him onto an impure mat. With her licentious body, he stroked and rubbed him until he was on the verge of destroying the precepted substance. The Tathagata, knowing Ananda was being taken advantage of by the incident artifice, finished the meal and immediately began his return journey. The king, great officials, elders, and lay people followed along after the Buddha, desiring to hear the essentials of Dharma. Then the world-honored one emitted 100 rays of jeweled and fierce light from his crown. Within the light appeared 1,000-petaled precious lotus, upon which was seated a transformation body Buddha in full lotus posture, proclaiming a spiritual mantra. He commanded Manjushri to take the mantra and go provide protection, and when the evil mantra was extinguished, to lend support and to encourage Ananda and Mantaji's daughter to return to where the Buddha was. Ananda saw the Buddha bowed and wept sorrowfully, regretting that from time without beginning he had been preoccupied with erudition and had not yet perfected his strength in the way. He respectfully and repeatedly requested an explanation of the very first expedients of the wonderful Shamatha, Samapati, and Dhyana, by means of which the Tathagatas of the 10 directions had realized Bodhi. At that time, Bodhisattvas, as numerous as the sands of the Ganges, great Arhats, Pratyakas, and others from the 10 directions were also present. Pleased at the opportunity to listen, they withdrew silently to their seats to receive the sagely instruction. In the midst of the great assembly, the world-honored one then extended his golden arm, rubbed Ananda's crown, and said to Ananda and the great assembly, "There is a Samadhi called the king of the foremost Shurangama of the great Buddha summit, replete with the Myriad practices. It is a path wonderfully adorned, and the single door through which the Tathagatas of the 10 directions gained transcendence. You should now listen attentively." Ananda bowed down to receive the compassionate instruction humbly. The Buddha said to Ananda, "You and I are the same family and share the affection of a natural relationship. At the time of your initial resolve, what were the outstanding characteristics which you saw in my Dharma that caused you to suddenly cast aside the deep kindness and love found in the world?" Ananda said to the Buddha, "I saw the Tathagata's 32 characteristics which was so supremely wonderful, so incomparable, and his entire body had a shimmering transparency just like that of crystal. I often thought to myself that these characteristics cannot be born of desire and love. Why? The vapors of desire are coarse and murky. From foul and putrid intercourse comes a turbid mixture of pus and blood, which cannot give off such a magnificent, pure, and brilliant concentration of purple golden light. And so I thirstily gazed upward, followed the Buddha, and let the hair fall from my head. The Buddha said, "Very good, Ananda. You should all know that all living beings are continually born and continually die simply because they do not know the everlasting true mind, the bright substance of the pure nature. Instead, they engage in false thinking. It has been so since time without beginning. Their thoughts are not true, and so the wheel keeps turning. Now you wish to investigate the unsurpassed body and actually discover your nature. You should answer my questions with a straightforward mind, because that is exactly the way the Tathagatas of the 10 directions escaped birth and death. Their minds were all straightforward, and since their minds and worlds were consistently that way from the beginning through the intermediate stages to the end, they were never in the least evasive. Ananda, I now ask you, at the time of your initial resolve, which arose in response to the Tathagata's 32 characteristics, what was it that saw those characteristics and who delighted in them? Ananda said to the Buddha, "World honored one, this is the way I experienced the delight. I used my mind and eyes. Because my eyes saw the Tathagata's outstanding characteristics, my mind gave rise to delight. That is why I became resolved and wished to remove myself from birth and death." The Buddha said to Ananda, "It is as you say that experience of delight actually occurs because of your mind and eyes. If you do not know where your mind and eyes are, you will not be able to conquer the wearisome dust. For example, when a king's country is invaded by thieves and he sends out his troops to suppress and banish them, the troops must know where the thieves are. It is the force of your mind and eyes that you flow and turn. I am now asking you specifically about your mind and eyes. Where are they now?" Ananda said to the Buddha, "World honored one, all the 10 kinds of living beings in the world alike maintain that the conscious mind dwells within the body, and as I regard the Tathagata's blue lotus flower eyes, the two are on the Buddha's face. I now observe that these prominent organs, 4 kinds of defiling objects, are on my face, and so too my conscious mind actually is within my body." The Buddha said to Ananda, "You are now sitting in the Tathagata's lecture hall looking at the Jeta Grove. Where is it at present?" World honored one, this great many-storied pure lecture hall is in the garden of the benefactor of the solitary. At present, the Jeta Grove is in fact outside the hall. Ananda, as you are now in the hall, what do you see first? World honored one, here in the hall, I first see the Tathagata. Next, I see the great assembly, and from there, as I gaze outward, I see the grove and garden. Ananda, why it is you are able to see the grove and the garden as you look at them? World honored one, since the doors and windows of this great lecture hall have been thrown open wide, I can be in the hall and see into the distance. The Buddha said to Ananda, "It is as you say. When one is in the lecture hall and the doors and windows are open wide, One can see far into the garden and grove. Could there be someone in the hall who does not see the Tathagata and yet sees outside the hall? Ananda answered, World Honored One, to be in the hall and not see the Tathagata and yet see the grove and fountains is impossible. Ananda, you are like that too. Your mind is capable of understanding everything thoroughly. Now, if your present mind, which thoroughly understands everything, were in your body, then you should be aware first of what is inside your body. Can there be living beings who first see inside their bodies before they observe things outside? Even if you cannot see your heart, liver, spleen, and stomach, still the growing of your nails and hair, the twist of your sinews, and the throb of your palms should be clearly understood. Why don't you perceive these things? If you cannot perceive what is inside at all, how can you perceive what is outside? Therefore, you should know that you state the impossible when you say that the aware knowing mind is in the body. Ananda bowed his head and said to the Buddha, Upon hearing such a Dhamma sound as the Tathagata has proclaimed, I realized that my mind is actually outside my body. Why? For example, a lamp alight in a room will certainly illumine the inside of the room first, and only then will it pour through the doorway to reach the recesses of the home. For all living beings who do not see within their bodies but only see outside them, it is as if the lighted lamp were placed outside the room so that it cannot illumine the room. This principle is certainly clear. It is absolutely beyond all doubt and exactly the Buddha's entire meaning, and so it isn't wrong, is it? The Buddha said to Ananda, All these bhikshus who just followed me to the city of Shravasti to beg in sequence for food have returned to the Jeta Grove and are rolling their food in bowls as they eat. I have already finished eating, but consider the bhikshus. When one person eats, does everyone get full? Another answered, No, World Honored One. Why? These bhikshus are Arhats, but their individual lives differ. How could one person's eating cause everyone to be full? The Buddha told Ananda, If your mind, which understands, knows, sees, and is aware, were actually outside your body and mind would be mutually exclusive and would have no relationship to one another. The body would be unaware of what the mind perceives, and the mind would not perceive the awareness within the body. Now, as I show you my chilla cotton hand, does your mind distinguish it when your eyes see it? Ananda answered, So it is, World Honored One. The Buddha told Ananda, If the mind and eyes create a common perception, how then can the mind be outside? Therefore, you should know you state the impossible when you say that the mind which knows, understands, and is aware is outside the body. Ananda said to the Buddha, World Honored One, it is as the Buddha has said, since I cannot see inside, my mind does not reside in the body. Since my body and mind have a common awareness, they are not separate, and so my mind does not dwell outside the body, does not dwell outside my body. As I now consider it, I know it is in a certain place. The Buddha said, Now where is it? Ananda said, Since the mind which knows and understands does not perceive what is inside but can see outside, upon reflection I believe it is concealed in the organ of vision. For example, when someone places crystal balls over his eyes, the balls cover his eyes but do not obstruct his vision. The organ of vision is thus able to see, and discriminations are made accordingly. And so my mind, which knows, understands, and is aware, does not see within because it resides in the organ. It can gaze outside clearly without obstruction. For the same reason, it is concealed in the organ. The Buddha said to Ananda, assuming that it is concealed in the organ, as you assert your analogy of the crystals, if someone were to cover his eyes with the crystals and look at the mountains and rivers, would he see the crystals as well? Yes, won't honor one. If a person were to cover his eyes with the crystals, he would in fact see the crystals. The Buddha said to Ananda, if your mind is analogous to the eyes covered with crystals, then when you see the mountains and rivers, why don't you see your eyes? If you could see your eyes would be part of the external environment. If you cannot see them, why did you say that the mind which understands, knows, and is aware is concealed in the organ of vision as eyes are covered by crystals? Therefore, you should know that you state the impossible when you say that the mind which knows, understands, and is aware is concealed in the organ of vision in the way that the eyes are covered by crystals. Ananda said to the Buddha, Most Honored One, I now offer this consideration. Viscera and bones lie inside the bodies of living beings, while the orifices are open to the exterior. There is darkness at the bowels and light at the orifices. Now, as I face the Buddha and open my eyes, I see light, that is to see outside. When I close my eyes and see darkness, that is to see within. How does that principle sound? The Buddha said to Ananda, when you close your eyes and see darkness, does the darkness you experience lie before your eyes? If it does lie before your eyes, then the darkness is in front of your eyes. How can that be said to be within? If it were within, then when you are in a dark room without the light of sun, moon, or lamps, the darkness in the room will constitute your warmth and viscera. If it is not before you, how can it be seen? If you assert that there is an inward seeing that is distinct from seeing outside, in that case, when you close your eyes and see darkness, you would be seeing inside the body. Therefore, when you open your eyes and see light, why can't you see your own face? If you cannot see your face, then there can be no seeing within. If you can see your face, then your mind that knows and understands and your organ of vision as well must be suspended in space. How could they be a part of your body? If they are in space, then they are not part of your body. Otherwise, the Tathagata who now sees your face should be part of your body as well. In that case, when your eyes perceive something, your body would remain unaware of it. If you press the point and say that the body and eyes each have an awareness, then you should have two perceptions, and your one body should eventually become two Buddhas. Therefore, you should know that you state the impossible when you say that to see darkness is to see within. Ananda said to the Buddha, I have heard the Buddha instruct the four assemblies that because the mind arises, every kind of Dharma arises, and that because Dharmas arise, every kind of mind arises. As I now consider it, the substance of that very consideration is truly the nature of the mind. Wherever it comes together with things, the mind exists in response. It does not exist in the three locations of inside, outside, and in between. The Buddha said to Ananda, now you say that because Dhammas arise, every kind of mind arises. Wherever it comes together but with things, the mind exists in response. But if it has no substance, the mind cannot come together with anything. If having no substance, it can yet come together with things that would constitute the 19th realm brought about by a union with the 7th defiling object, and there is no such principle. If it does have substance, then you pinch your body with your hand. Does your mind, which perceives it, come out from the inside and in from the outside? If it comes out from the inside, then once again it should see within your body. If it comes in from outside, it should see your face first. Ananda said, seeing is done with the eyes. The mind's perception is not that of the eyes. To say it is doesn't make sense. The Buddha said, to suppose that the eyes can see is like supposing that the doors of a room can see. Also, when someone has died but his eyes are still intact, his eyes should see things. How can it be death if one can still see? Furthermore, Ananda, if your mind, which is aware, understands and knows, in fact, has substance, then is it a single substance or many substances? Does its substance perceive the body as it now resides in it, or does it not perceive it? Supposing that it were a single substance, then that when you pinched one limb with your fingers, the 4 limbs would be aware of it. If they all were aware of it, the pinch could not be at any one place. If the pinch were confined to one place, then the single substance you propose would not be possible. Supposing that it were many substances, then you would be many people. Which substance would be you? Supposing it were a pervasive substance, the case would be the same as before in the instance of pinching. But supposing it were not pervasive, then when you touched your head and touched your foot simultaneously, the foot would not perceive it if the head does. But that is not how you are. Therefore, you should know that you state the impossible when you say that wherever it comes together with things, the mind exists in response.